On the 9th of July, I'm gonna run my fastest 10K ever, my first ever sub 50. The question now though is, what's the best shoe for it? Some would say Nike's Vaporfly 3. Others will argue Adidas's Prime X Strung, and some would say Hoka Rocket X2. In this one, we're gonna find out which shoe is gonna see me through to the finish line. My name is Aubrey. Welcome to my channel, Aubrey Running. And on Instagram, Aubrey.running. Please do give me a follow. It would be good to connect with you. At the time of recording this, you guys have given me 3,450 subscribers. I sincerely appreciate you. Let's start with the comparison. The first thing we should look at is the price. To me, this is a separator. Okay, so I'm gonna be blunt here. I'm not awarding any point in this category because these shoes are just expensive. But there has to be a winner, I guess. And the Hoka Rocket X2 takes this category. Get this, at 220 pounds is the most affordable one because the Prime X Strung comes in at 230 and Nike Vaporfly 3, 235. So at 220, Rocket X2. The second thing in terms of performance, I would say the weight. Don't ignore this section. Look, if you're a fan of Harry Potter, you will understand spells, wizardry, witchcraft, all that kind of stuff. I promise you, you don't need to go all the way to Hogwarts to learn that kind of stuff. You just need to own a Vaporfly 3 because what they've done to the weight of this shoe is some kind of witchcraft. I promise you now. In a size 9.5 UK, this bad boy comes in at 208 grams. Hoka Rocket X2 is decent too, but that's 226. Adidas just decided we can't be bothered with doing the weight. I'm going to explain why a little bit, but the Prime X Strung comes in at 279 grams. It's a no-brainer. Harry Potter who? And lastly, you know what? All of these just set these shoes apart is the stack height. This plays a big role in how these shoes differ. Look, before I give you the numbers, it might be worth having a refresher here on what exactly stack height is and what drop is, because you're going to need to understand that when we talk about Adidas's Prime X Strung. Now listen, the tallest part of the shoe is normally at the heel, and that's your stack height. And then you also measure the same at the front. The difference between those two measures is your drop. So we're going to start with the modest one. Hoka Rocket X2, 36 mil at the back, 31 at the front, being a 5 mil drop. Modest. And then Vaporfly 3. Now this is key because this is 40 mil at the back and 32 at the front, being an 8 mil drop. The reason I say it's key is because 40 mil is the absolute maximum a shoe can have for it to be race legal. And you know what? You love this shoe because of that. The stack height here is 50 at the back. That's a lot, 50 mil. And then you go 41.5 at the front, being an 8.5 drop. You know what? I love this shoe because of that, and I'll explain a little bit when we start talking about the pros and cons. As with any comparison, there's pros and cons. So let's start with the advantages of each shoe. Okay, so what do we love the most about the Vaporfly 3? For me, the first thing is the weight. 208 grams on a race day shoe is absolutely key, and I haven't found a shoe that comes close to it. The second thing is the Flyknit. That is the mesh of this shoe. It's the most breathable material I have seen, and including the tongue. The other thing we have to talk about is Zoom X. The Prime X Strung comes very close and maybe to some people beats the Zoom X, but they needed 50 mil of foam to do that, whereas the Vaporfly manages that to stay race legal within 40 mil. Okay, quickly. And please don't undermine the point I'm about to make now, but this is the only shoe compared to the other two that actually feels like a normal shoe, if that makes sense. With a 36 mil stack height, it feels like the shoes you've been wearing all your life. Prime X Strung is 50 mil, Vaporfly 40. So this feels very natural. Other thing I should talk about, the only shoe with a gusseted tongue, for those not too familiar, it's actually attached to the upper. The tongue is fixed in one place. You get the same experience every time. The third thing I want to talk about is the look of the shoe. Compared to the other two, in my opinion, this is definitely the best looking shoe. Lastly, Hoka have suddenly woken up. Every shoe they've released after the Clifton 9 seems to have a futuristic look, but I don't want to dwell on the look, but this is their best performing shoe, in my opinion, to date. Okay, so let's talk about what we like in the Prime X Strung. The first thing is the comfort. I feel fresh after running in this shoe the next day. And that's something I cherish in a shoe because it's going to preserve my joints and just how I feel. And it will impact my relationship with running. The second thing is the stack height. There's a reason why 50 mil is illegal. So whether people get an advantage in running in this shoe, it's personal. It depends on the pace you're running at, the kind of running you're doing. But that's definitely something you can't ignore. The third thing is the outsole. This is the best outsole compared to the other two shoes we've talked about because some of the outsoles we're going to highlight as disadvantages in the other shoes, but this is literally one of the best outsoles I've seen in a running shoe. The last thing I like is the innovation of this upper. This strung design is something I haven't seen in any shoe. Apparently, and don't quote me on this, no shoe is the same because these strings are actually attached in an individual way. And so every shoe is bound to be unique. Unfortunately, there's also a downside to each of these shoes. So let's talk about that now. Starting with the Vaporfly 3, this is the least durable outsole of all three shoes. The second point I think we need to talk about is the price. This is £235. If price is a big deal, this puts a downer on this one. You might consider the other two. Okay, so in terms of the Prime X Strung, I would say the biggest disadvantage is its weight. 279 grams, that's heavy. On top of that, the bulk. It looks like God said to Noah, hey Noah, I'm about to send a flood. Build the people an ark. And Noah said, here you go, Lord, the Prime X Strung. That kind of jobby. The other thing I'd have to say is the stack height. Now I know I say this is an advantage in terms of the comfort, but it's a disadvantage for some people because not many people have ever ran in a 50 mil stack height. Therefore, it comes with a learning curve. To some people, they'll interpret that as instability in this shoe. I've done my own review of this shoe. I've watched other people's reviews. I've read articles, all sorts in preparation for this comparison. And I have to tell you, after running in this shoe, after my own experience, I don't have a disadvantage to tell you. I would have said the price, but it's the cheapest compared to the other two shoes. I would have said the outsole. No, it's got very good coverage. There are some parts of the midsole exposed, but Hoka has done a good job in securing those. I genuinely don't know what to tell you, and I don't think I should list disadvantages for purposes of doing so. Based on my experience in running in this shoe, I don't have any to tell you. Hey, so look, I've got a review for each of these shoes. So go ahead, you can click top left for the Vaporfly, top right for Adidas Prime X, and bottom left, you can click there to see Hoka Rocket X2. Please, if you found this useful, entertaining, or whatever reason you enjoyed watching it for, do consider subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to me. And also, catch me on Instagram. It will be good to interact with you. Thank you.